And therefore, hemp's got a very limited market. They didn't look at food and fiber and building materials and the whole host of things that hemp is going to be made from in the coming years. I mean, they didn't even begin to look at automobiles. Lost the page. About 10 years ago, as one of the San Francisco attorneys, a specialist in hostile corporate takeovers, and in his reforming himself, he turned himself into quite the hipster. He has a law practice that specializes in helping environmentally sustainable companies deal with the regulatory and financial burdens that they face. He's been an incredible help to many different hemp industries, has been at the forefront of this fight with the U.S. government over the Kenneth situation. Thank you for coming all the way here from Hawaii, David. David Franklin.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate the opportunity to come here. There's an amazing group of people in this room, and it's really inspiring to be in a room full of people who, even only 5 years ago, California, when we circulated the Proposition 215 petitions in 1995, you kind of didn't even necessarily want normal mail to come to your house, because people might think, well, this guy's supposed to pot. And now, Gary Johnson, all the flourishing manifestations of the work that this organization's been doing for a long time has come to fruition. Really appreciate it. I come here from the standpoint of an environmental business lawyer. That's the hat I'm wearing. I can follow up with some details of how it was to get a phone call when I'm on vacation in Maui one day thinking this place is great. They even grow hemp here soon. They're going to have a planting. And then to hear that 44,000 pounds of birdseed was seized at the border, and that there was a rabid customs agent expressing his view that when our lawyers from Washington, D.C. called, they said, gee, it really kind of burns a guy when someone wants to know where their controlled substances are. So, excuse me, here's the law, here's the legislative history, and this person who's gung-ho that this was possibly really a kingpin situation, $4 billion for 25-pound bag. Imagine, this must be like $400 trillion worth of birdseed. And, this guy might make the newspaper, get gold watch, I'm not sure what his motivation. But what we do know is that we said, well, a very polite, distinguished lawyer from Washington, D.C. that was retained in this matter called and said, well, we'd like to know why the hemp seed was taken. I used to be a U.S. attorney, not myself, but this lawyer said. And it's just beyond me that someone's not entitled to face their accuser. What exactly is the basis for the seizure? They said, well, there's a zero THC policy. So our lawyer said, oh, really? Can we see it? No. Really? Why not? It's not written down. Really? It's not written down. Who knows about it? Someone with a higher pay scale than me. So that's like, okay, over to Washington, D.C. Finally, somebody's pay scale was high enough that they knew about this policy. And they expressed that it was because it was THC. As Don mentioned, THC is synthetic THC is actually a controlled substance under the regulations. There is what I think they view as a loophole that says that, there's no prohibition, never in the history of humankind has there been a prohibition on sterilized hemp seed and capable of germination. At this point, they have decided, as Don mentioned, by fiat, that national security interests or drug war interests or the like justify some kind of aggressive militarist band-aid so that it would be unnecessary to import this until they have a chance to see how it affects national drug policy. Well, we looked at that and we got the Canadians actively involved. There's just, it turns out that the province of Ontario itself invested $1 million in investing in hemp research and development. And then you have some of these states, Hawaii, North Dakota, Minnesota. These are not children. These are people who've been elected to political office in major populations of the American Republic. And yet they have sought fit to see through what are some very persuasive to some arguments related to why industrial hemp is not worth looking at. And if we go back, and Don gave us a really fine overview of where we've been over the past few years, and this is a seminar about federal roadblocks to industrial hemp. Let's just take a look at some of the arguments. First, hemp and marijuana are exactly the same. Okay, well that one started to fall by the wayside as more and more evidence came up that they're actually not exactly the same. Then sends a confusing message to young people. Every time I see somebody who's young, they're wearing hemp jewelry because it's really cheap and really fashionable. They all know, we heard some of the statistics, the number of, 49% or something of high school seniors who are smoking pot regularly. I mean, they know the difference between hemp and marijuana. Their parents know the difference between hemp and marijuana, and their grandparents know the difference because they're old enough to remember when it was still legal. It's only this middle generation, this kind of Vietnam War generation, and I'm told that General McCaffrey is a distinguished Vietnam War general, and that he's fighting his battle in the drug war, and that he likes to work with people that he served with in Vietnam. So I guess it's not surprising that it just so happens that that era is still in control of this issue. And what they're saying is, well, why do we even care? There's no economics. General McCaffrey was saying the quality of the product was no good. So we have the drug czar in the United States saying that hemp doesn't hold a crease. I can appreciate the very narrow split of the population for whom holding crease is necessary. I myself wore a suit and tie every business day for 7 years. And, but there are irons, you can press it, and in any event, I've been wearing this hemp shirt every day at this conference because I travel light, and I think it looks pretty good. In any event, got down to, okay, it interferes with legitimate law enforcement objectives. You can't see it from the air, or it's difficult to identify separately from the air. And so they took that test, and they mounted pretty sustainable, in their view, campaign in the state legislatures to affect the views of state politicians. I remember hearing from Tom Blanco, who wrote the Colorado Industrial Hemp Production Act in 1995, Lloyd Casey put up. He had a bale of hemp on his desk, DEA came and confiscated it. And then they go in to testify, and they make their presentations, they get to go first, and all of a sudden an honor guard of police officers walks into the room, full sidearms, sits down, takes their trooper hats off, and they want to tell you what's what. Now, from that point on, I heard from Tom, he said, next time they go first. And at least, when the arguments have really come down to it, every single state legislature that's considered the issue has come around on the issue. Why? Why? We sit in a situation where every political issue involves balancing competing and often competing legitimate interests. And here, there's no balancing at all. It's kind of like the Trump card. Drug war to zero. Something, $1 billion to nothing. There's no balance. Why would it balance? What are the aspects of industrial hemp? Why are we here? Why have we spent 10 years in this effort or longer? The reason is because, quite simply, if you just look at where we are now, and you don't even get involved with all the history, and you just take, okay, year 2000, this is where we are, this is where we want to be. Where we are is that the federal government's policy on industrial hemp is diametrically opposed to achieving environmental sustainability. Why is sustainability important? Well, anybody heard cancer? A lot of people have cancer in this country. 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women statistically are going to get cancer from non-genetic, avoidable causes due to toxics in the environment. We have strontium in our bones. If you open your toothpaste and you go and you check it out, on the back it's a poison control center warning, unless if it's Crest or something like that, unless it's Tom's or organic. They're telling you an accidental swallowing of your toothpaste may require you to call the poison control center. What's going on? Well, there's a lot of issues related to that, but if we just focus on hemp, we can take note of the fact that in May of 1999, the Union of Concerned Scientists released a report identifying 7 things that cause 80% of ongoing ecological harm. These 7 things are cars and light trucks, meat poultry production, non-organic agriculture, the remaining